Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Jay Harness. I'm your host, Jay Harness. And boy, do I have a really unique colleague to share with you today. This will be a great conversation. He's Dr. Brian Lawenda, a Harvard trained radiation oncologist. Brian is an integrative and functional medicine expert, medical acupuncturist, which I didn't know about him. And I'm well aware of his multiple books, and they include Empowered Against Cancer, The Cancer Tightrope, The Mitochondrial Method, and Benign Radiation Therapy Handbook. Brian, not surprisingly, has been ranked by U.S. News and World Report as one of the top doctors in the United States. Brian, it is a real treat to have you here today.
Jay, it's great to be here with you.
Yeah, you bet. Well, let's share everybody a little bit. We were chit-chatting before we started recording about your backstory, your training, particularly your time in the Navy, and you got to slip in your part of working with a TV crew. Okay, so give everybody a little thumbnail of your background, will you please?
Yes, sure. So I'm from Southern California. I grew up in Los Angeles and spent a number of years in San Diego for college and was selected to do the scholarship program for medical school through the Navy to pay for my medical training. And went off to Philadelphia to do that at Temple University and did a surgery internship in San Diego at the Naval Medical Center there. And actually, it probably was about when I first kind of heard about you. And then from there, I went off and did a couple years with the Navy in Hawaii. I was the head doctor for all the ships that were stationed in Pearl Harbor, and then my afternoon and my weekend job after that was over was I was the doctor for the television show Baywatch Hawaii, taking care of the cast and crew, which was a lot of fun.
Well, come on now, Brian. Tell us a little bit about that. That must have been really a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Well, it was a lot of fun. Fortunately, for everybody else, I was never on camera. I just actually took care of the cast and crew, sort of their occupational medicine doctor, and got to know them and go visit them in their hotel rooms, and when they got runny noses or what have you, and so that was pretty fun. Jason Momoa was on the show, and David Hasselhoff obviously
Yeah.
was on, so that was a
Yeah.
fun. That
Well,
was
well,
fun.
that's a really neat thing. Anyway, after that fun time, you did your radiation oncology fellowship, right?
Yeah, so I went to Boston at Mass General Hospital, did 4 years of my radiation oncology residency there. And it was during that time that I dipped my toe for the first time into integrative oncology. One of the projects that I did was a laboratory project between Massachusetts General Hospital and Tufts Medical School and Nutrition School. It was a project looking at trying to answer the question that we all wonder, and that is, do antioxidants that are in your diet, for example, or supplemental antioxidants interfere with radiation treatment for people who are undergoing treatment for cancers? It's one of the things that we're always told, and so
Yeah.
I needed to do a research project for that. So I explored that with some green tea and some mice and some breast cancers, and found that the green tea actually slowed the tumor growths down and actually protected the mice from the effects of the radiation onto their skin. So it was a win-win for the mice.
Wow.
Uh,
Not only a win-win for the mice, but a win-win for everybody else. Certainly in all the years, the 37 years I was involved with breast cancer patients, that was part of the history that I knew as well, to make sure your patients were taking any antioxidants. So good for you guys. But
yeah,
did that really then stimulate you further to get further into functional radiation oncology?
yeah. So at that point, I joined the Society for Integrative Oncology, which was a really nascent organization at that point. Got onto the
Yep.
board of that, and spent a number of years, on the board and really going to all the conferences and learning about the various evidence-based complementary therapies that were talked about through all the different specialties like acupuncture and and a variety of other, really interesting complementary therapy, specialties, and how those integrate into the oncology clinic. And that kind of, basically became my life in terms of looking at seeing how we can integrate that into my Navy practice of being a radiation oncologist, which I did for a number of years. So that had never stopped. It just kept on growing ever since then. And over the last 10 years, I started to get interested in looking at the sort of underlying physiology of patients using lab testing, looking at what we call functional medicine lab testing. And that's an area where you're looking at somebody's metabolic health, you're looking at their inflammatory terrain, you're looking at their gut microbiome, their metabolites for nutrients and how they're being utilized by the mitochondria, et cetera. And so, by looking at things that might not be optimized, how do we optimize them? And that's really the whole specialty of functional medicine, and looking to see how patients, could potentially benefit for health optimization and potentially even cancer outcomes when you optimize some of the abnormalities that are identified.
Oh boy, this is really important stuff. Brian, let's go through and prioritize number one, number two, number three. I mean, your books are amazing. I just got shipped to me from Amazon the other day, your mitochondrial book. So I'm anxious to dig into that. But in sort of a check order list, let's start at the top and work our way down to some of the most important things that all your research has revealed.
Well, I think that, if we kind of look at sort of what you and I were talking about this the other day, and as it pertains to the mitochondria, that book really was, that book was spurned from many years of thinking about what is the main potential causes of pathophysiology, or what could be damaged the most from pathophysiological conditions, the chicken or the egg, or vice versa. And so, we really think often about, the mitochondria as being just simply the energy powerhouse of the cell, but it's also really responsible for almost every system that our body is controlling, whether it be the immune system, inflammatory processes, gut health, the brain and how it functions, and even how well we deal with cancer metabolism. And if we have defective mitochondria, if we aren't in the best physical shape, how does that ultimately impact on outcomes across the terrain, whether they be cardiovascular, whether it be cognitive, cancer, et cetera. So it's I would say, for me, focusing on how we can identify when the mitochondria are happy and healthy, and what things may contribute to sort of an unhealthy environment, so that we can sort of try to fix all those things.
Okay. Metabolic health is really critical in all of this. You're absolutely spot on about this. So let's give folks a little shopping list. What things do we do that make our mitochondria not healthy? Some of the obvious ones are like cigarette smoking or obesity or whatever they may be. But really importantly, for the cancer survivors who are going to watch this video and this conversation, what things can people do to make their mitochondria healthier, if you will?
Well, I think really the kind of rank order is that, obesity and insulin resistance, those two really could go obviously hand in hand. And everything that we can do to try to optimize our insulin sensitivity is really kind of the main focus, I would say, to try to make our mitochondria work better. Our cells tend to want to metabolize through the mitochondria whenever possible. If they're, either stressed out or they're not working very well, they don't use the mitochondrial pathways. And we have all heard of it, probably the Warburg effect, where cancer cells preferentially use
Yeah.
non-mitochondrial pathways. And so we want to do things that we can to try to help those mitochondria out. And that means, number one, exercise, trying to lose weight, eating as healthfully as we can to make sure that we're getting all the nutrients that our body needs, all the cofactors that are needed for all the enzymes, proteins, that ultimately, will not function well if we don't have everything that the body needs in terms of those micronutrients, the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids. We want to make sure that that gut microbiome is working very well. And so again, that comes down to, exercise. It comes down to sleep. It comes down to stress levels. And processed foods and other environmental chemicals. So there's a lot of things that are involved in that. But really, probably the top thing is going to end up being that metabolic component for insulin sensitivity, and the main factors that add into that is basically getting the body into the the ideal body weight, and there's a lot of different components to that, for adiposity versus muscle mass, and trying to optimize that best we can, and getting good sleep and managing stress.
So when you got active patients at your clinic, at your center, do you have them in an exercise program, Brian? Do you have them, are there any supplements that you recommend? I'm sure you're recommending getting good sleep, maybe even meditation to help lower their stress levels. But do you have a set program that you try and get all of your patients into?
Yeah, so part of our one of the sort of offshoots of the practice is an exercise program that actually has its own gym and exercise trainers and physiologists. And so that's through a portion of the practice called Inspire. And they actually have a whole exercise program that is dedicated specifically for cancer patients and survivors. That's something that I wish every one of the patients had access to. That's down a little further south from the offices that I'm practicing at. So my patients don't easily have access to that, but they have access to the YMCA, and this part of the conversation that we have all the time. Typically, it's during the times where the patients are not completely overwhelmed with a new diagnosis, for example, and they got some other things that we need to kind of work on, or they're right in the middle of treatment, and they're having side effects, for example. So you pick the opportune time to introduce it, and it's very, very important, and that everybody understands that when they're coming to see me.
Oh, that's really fabulous. Yeah, Live Strong is out in the YMCA's. The group that I'm with, Maple Tree Cancer Alliance, has been working with Live Strong to recertify many of their instructors and whatever. One of the things that I emphasize to people all the time is when we talk about exercise oncology, exercise for cancer patients, it's really a continuum of care, isn't it? If we could get it started at the time we're doing neoadjuvant therapies, whatever it is, continue it through active therapy, but particularly into long-term survivorship. I'm sure you were as pleased as I was with the challenge clinical trial that came out recently at ASCO
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
improved survival of stage 2 and 3 colon cancer patients. To me, Brian, I don't know about yourself, but to me, one of the keys to that was that the 3 years of exercise was actually structured programs. The
right.
first year on site, the next 2 years were done remotely. But to have you as a friend in the world of exercise oncology is really important. Anything else on your checklist of things? You really highlighted a lot of things, but anything else you want to share with the group and with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that, the access to a functional medicine trained practitioner, I think, is important.
Okay.
Most oncologists don't have training in functional medicine, and functional medicine practitioners are pretty widely available, and people can find them. And if you don't test for things such as insulin resistance, nutrient deficiencies, you will never know that you have them, and so. That's an important thing too. Just like having, an exercise laboratory to look at, for example, your VO2 max. Well,
Sure.
there's how do you know what that is unless you test for it or have some surrogate ways to test for it. So
Yeah.
test, and then we can address any issues.
And then typically, how can the average citizen find a functional medicine physician? I'm assuming they have a national association or directory. How does that work,
Mhm.
Brian?
The largest is the Institute for Functional Medicine, IFM.
Oh,
But
yeah.
there are other organizations. I did my training through the Kalish Functional Medicine Program, and there's a few others that are out there as well, and they have directories on their website for people who've gone through their training programs.
Okay. Very, very good. Any other caveats? Because you're loaded with them, and I so highly respect you for all the work you've been doing.
I think the other sort of unsung hero in the cancer journey is really the caregiver. And so part of one of the reasons that I wanted to write a book, uh, that was the Cancer Tightrope that you mentioned, which is one of my recent books. It really does highlight just the importance of that cancer caregiver and the journey that they're on as well. And we can't forget about them. They go through a lot. And the patients obviously have their cancer tightrope that they're walking on, but so do their loved ones. And I write a lot about strategies for dealing with the swaying tightrope. The reason for the name, by the way, the metaphorical name for tightrope, is that my last name, Lawenda, sounds very familiar to patients. They think I'm part of the flying Walenda family, which is the family that the
Okay.
tightrope
Sure. There
walkers.
you go. Of course. Yeah,
And they
there
happen
you
to live here in Southwest Florida, which of all things, so very interesting. But in any case, I think that would be a very interesting book for a lot of people to read who are either going through the process or after.
And what about your other books? You want to highlight anything from your other couple
Yes.
books?
So
Sure.
I co-wrote with Connor Middleman Whitney. Connor is she's a cancer nutritionist, and she's also a really excellent chef. Mediterranean diet is sort of more her specialty, and that was with the book that we wrote, Empowered Against Cancer, which really talks a lot about diet, exercise, stress reduction, of various evidence-based complementary therapies and approaches to managing side effects and symptoms during and after cancer treatment. So uh, that's one of the books I think would be sort of a foundational book for a lot of patients. The mitochondria method one that you just were mentioning earlier really gets into a lot of the weeds, but written at a level that I feel that most people will be able to understand. So it really talks a lot about how to assess the mitochondria and how to optimize the mitochondria across all sorts of domains. It's not a cancer book. It's really for just general health. And so, there's that book, and the benign radiation therapy book is really just more of a science book for radiation oncologists and people who are interested in learning of how radiation works for benign conditions like osteoarthritis, for example, where we use ultra low
Huh.
dose radiation to shut down inflammatory pathways.
Okay. Well, chronic inflammation is sure a big factor in everything, isn't it? Not
Sure
only
is.
in the causing of cancer and other heart disease and other diseases, but turning it off. And there's no question that our lifestyle in the Western societies in particular are big contributors to all this. Well, you're so proliferative. What is next for Brian Lawenda? What's your next book going to be about, Brian?
I haven't really gotten into the next book realm thought right now. I'm taking a break after the mitochondria method.
Okay. Well, we'll be standing by for that. Any other final caveats as we wrap it up? This has just been terrific.
If people are interested in following what I'm up to or learning some of the research that I'll post about, it will be look at my Dr. Brian Lawenda Facebook page. My website is themitochondriamethod.com, and so
Okay.
you can learn about that. And yeah, there you have it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, listen, as we wrap this up, I just can't thank you enough, Brian, for being here. As I've shared with you, I started Cancer Fitness as a physician spokesperson. You've been way ahead of all of us as a physician spokesperson, but I would welcome our audience to visit us at cancerfitness.org, where we'll not only eventually have Brian's video on the site, but we've got other written blogs, other videos, other definitions of the world of exercise oncology. So we want to wish and thank Dr. Brian Lawenda for a fantastic discussion today. And I want to wish everybody all the best. And remember this, keep moving.